It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline. Okay, now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily with positive vibes, yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews, you never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
Week 2 of the NFL has been one to watch. Unfortunately, regardless what side your team is on, mine being the Eagles, not all happy endings, but we have a lot to get into. So joining me on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington this week, we've got the host of Off the Record, Anthony Adebayo. So welcome to the show, Ant.
How you doing?
Could be better. I'm still in pain. I flew down to Atlanta to watch the Eagles play the Falcons. Didn't get the result we wanted. And the only thing worse than watching your team lose is watching them lose in person like this. But I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention that the Cowboys won.
Yeah, I would have poured salt on an open wound. Exactly. Guys, thank you for that reminder, because I watched that happen too. Thank you, Redskins, for having an awful second half as always. All right, so let's get right into what happened. First couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of surprising performances, some results that maybe people are surprised by. So let's start off with, and I don't even know where to begin. Let's start off with AB.
Okay.
Antonio Brown, and he had his first touchdown pass, first touchdown for the Patriots. We saw him flying to the stands. There's been a lot going on around AB right now, but we did see first three passes, Tom Brady found AB on every single one to really get him involved as they, and what better games than versus the Dolphins, who are struggling right now in an atrocious 43-0 win. But what are you seeing from AB and the Patriots? What are your thoughts on them moving forward?
So with AB, I think, like you said, there's no better way to get some good practice in than playing the worst team in the NFL with the Dolphins. So I think that game didn't really tell us much, but I think they were trying to get him implemented within the offense as much as they could against an inferior opponent. Do I think it will work? Actually, I do. I think that if all the legal stuff, set aside, if somehow that goes away or whatever happens with that, I think that adding Antonio Brown to the Patriots with Gordon and Edelman and Sonny Michel, I think you're giving Tom Brady the most weapons he's had maybe in his career.
That's a good point. That's the thing. It's like as soon as Antonio Brown, the news broke, and everybody was already speculating he was going to go to the Patriots, but as soon as it actually happened, it was kind of like this solidifies them as being a top team in the league and definitely puts them at an even better chance of winning the Super Bowl, as if having Tom Brady and Belichick was not enough. You add Antonio Brown to that group. So, yeah, I do think I agree with you in that. The game versus the Dolphins, not much to tell talent-wise because you are playing the worst team in the league. But it was, in a sense, like a scrimmage, a chance for him to work in with the offense and get some runs in and, hey, get some more confidence and stuff like that working alongside each other.
Yeah, and another thing is that, their division is not that great. So yeah, I believe they play the Jets next week, and the Jets won't have their quarterback. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, man, and, they play the Jets. Then after the Jets, I believe they play the Bills. So
we saw them play Steelers in week 1, so it's just they're just rolling through these first few weeks.
So they probably won't have a competitive game, maybe until the Browns. So or even it's just, I don't know, man. The Patriots, they are blessed, to say the least. I mean, to be in the AFC East, which is arguably one of, I mean, they're somewhat competitive, but compared to the Patriots, they don't stand a chance.
That's a good point. The luck continues. That's a very good point. Well, we also did see some unlucky things happen with my Eagles, specifically injuries. In their loss to the Falcons, not only did they just not play well altogether, we saw a lot of drop passes, a lot of questionable plays, but we also saw a number of injuries. Jason Kelce going down, Corey Clement, who they just ruled out for a couple weeks with a shoulder injury, Alshon Jeffrey with a calf injury, Deshaun Jackson with a groin, and then even Carson Wentz went out during the game to the tent to be checked for a potential concussion, I believe it was. But the Eagles, I mean, they were still in it. They stood a chance to win, ended up losing off of an incredible 54-yard run by Julio Jones. But, I mean...
It's okay.
But, I mean, for me, the biggest thing that stands out for the Eagles is that the second game in a row with an awful first half. We saw a terrible first half versus the Redskins. They do it again versus the Falcons. Carson does keep them in the game. But, you know, is this a team that you think has potential? I mean, their number 1, 2, and 3 wide receivers are out. Their number 2 tight end, but they still were in the game against the Falcons, though. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? I'm super biased.
I mean, and so I think with the Eagles, the injury bug, I mean, eventually the injury bug is going to catch up to them. Hopefully, those injuries that they have aren't like significant injuries where it's going to keep Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson, you know, he's up there in age, but he can still fly. But hopefully these injuries, hopefully these injuries aren't ones that'll keep them on the sideline long. You know, I'm not sure who the Eagles have next, but I mean, it's going to be tough because they don't. Carson Wentz doesn't really play that great against when he faces Dak Prescott. And I'm not trying to make this a Dak versus Wentz thing, but you know, Dak kind of has his number. Carson Wentz only beat the Cowboys once, you know, out of 4 in 4 meetings when he was healthy. I mean, to have to play catch up, to the Cowboys is going to be, I don't know, it's going to be tough, especially when you losing a lot of your horses. When, like you said, your top 2, because who knows what's going on with Ertz now? Because I think he was hurt. He came back in the game, but that was more of adrenaline, you know. So I haven't heard any reports that he has any lingering issues, and I think he'll be ready to go next week. You need Ertz. You need him. He's led the team in receiving for the last 2-3 years. Alshon Jeffrey, I think these guys are good, and they have a good team. But if these are long-lasting injuries, there's going to be an issue for the Eagles. I'm not, you know, I'd rather them be at full strength. I don't wish injury on anyone, and I like beating teams that are at full strength. So I would rather the Eagles be at full strength than have these injuries where, you know, it's almost like, I don't want to say an excuse built in, but you have a reason to say, but what if? You know, I don't want any what ifs.
No, that's a good point. I mean, the Eagles have been injury bitten. We've seen in the past, and that's always been the lingering question is, can they stay healthy? You know, you look at players like Deshaun Jackson and Darren Sproles, and of course Carson Wentz has had 2 season-ending injuries. So the question has always been, can they stay healthy? Because if so, then they are a team that's not only an NFC, you know, potential champion, but a Super Bowl champion. So it is a matter of those issues, as well as the fact that you're now going up against the Cowboys. Looking at the NFC East, the Redskins and the Giants are not really going to be competitive for a top spot. So it is Cowboys versus Eagles, honestly. In week 2, it's already Cowboys versus Eagles.
Absolutely. I think everybody knew that. No, I'm sorry. I think everybody knew that.
Yeah, there was no surprise there at all, especially with the off-season moves that we saw for the Giants. You know, the Redskins are really a team that's hasn't been strong. So, yeah, that was expected without a doubt. So now it's just a matter of, you know, what happens week to week injury-wise. But we did see around the league a number of other injuries. I mean, Drew Brees went down. They said he's out for 6 weeks with his right hand injury, which was a crazy play when he threw the ball and hit Aaron Donald during the Saints game that they ended up losing to the Rams. You know, the injury bug is real. We saw in week 1, Nick Foles went down for Jacksonville. He's out. So, I mean, that always is a big question mark because you can always look on paper and say our predictions, but it means nothing if these guys aren't actually on the field. Right. But I do have to touch on, you're in the D.C. area. How about those Ravens? The Ravens. Lamar Jackson, another strong week. I mean, he became the first player in NFL history with 250-plus passing yards, 120-plus rushing yards in a single game. Are they an AFC contender, you think?
Absolutely.
I've heard that, too.
Super Bowl, I think we'll see. I won't even say we'll see because they play Kansas City this week coming up. But yeah, absolutely. I think right now the Super Bowl contenders in the AFC will still be the Chiefs and the Patriots. But the Ravens are right there. If Lamar Jackson can throw the ball, which I've always felt like he can throw the ball. I just think that a lot of teams got hypnotized or whatever with his speed when he was at Louisville, and he has shown that he can throw the ball in college. And I know last year he was a rookie. At the end of the day, he was a rookie, and most of the time NFL teams are gonna put handcuffs on rookies and bring them in slowly. I'm happy for him because he believes. He said, I'm not going to play running back. I'm not going to play receiver. I'm a quarterback. I'm not going to play any of these other positions. If you don't like it, then don't draft me. Ozzie Newsome, who was a great GM for the Ravens, and that was his last first round pick was Lamar Jackson, and I think he set the Ravens up in a good way because that draft class not only was really good, but you pretty much drafted a franchise quarterback with a Heisman Trophy winner with the last pick in the first round, which was a steal. And it's like you said, he was the first to have over 200 yards passing, 100 yards receiving, and I don't even think he's even close to his potential, and that's scary.
That's a good point. Yeah,
that's scary.
I think that's exactly it. He's so young. I feel like we're just seeing him. And you even have to think about what this does. I mean, you play football. You understand what this does for you as a player, this confidence. When you see how he's been able to turn a corner and now be a guy that everyone's watching in the league, to have success in the field, to be a young quarterback, that in itself will boost you to make some plays that you might even, like, for him, he might find himself surprised at. The LJ era has begun.
Oh yeah, and he's gonna. Teams better watch out. I hope Kansas City's not taking him for granted. I don't think they are, but there's going to be a shootout on Sunday because Baltimore does have a good defense, and Kansas City's defense is okay, but I mean most people would pick Baltimore's defense over Kansas City's defense. So now. We're gonna see. I mean, Patrick Mahomes he's the real deal, and him versus Lamar Jackson is gonna be. I'm ready to watch that game.
Yeah, that is one that if even if you're not a fan of the Ravens or you're not a Kansas City fan, you're a football fan, you got to watch that game. That's gonna be exciting to watch. It's going to be some great football. We're going to see some incredible plays. But that also takes me into another game we saw this past weekend with some incredible plays, specifically in the last 35 seconds, I believe it was, or definitely under 40 seconds of the game. And the Bears with the 2-point win over the Broncos. We saw Denver get the touchdown. You think the game's over. I mean, I know it's hard to get up the field and get it, get some points on the board, but they were able to get in field goal range, and the Bears won.
Right.
Now,
with some help from the refs.
Not always, yes, but I was gonna say that's not a game that you would think to be exciting, but hey, it was one that was down to the wire, a great finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, no, I was gonna say the refs. I know we'll probably talk about that a little later, but the refs, they have to. I mean, something has to be done with these refs. But nonetheless. That, like you said, that last 30, 40 seconds of that game was like, man, what is it? Is he really going to be able to pull this off? And everybody knows about the situation with the Bears kicker last year. It ultimately cost them, a chance to advance in the playoffs. And for him to make they have a revolving door. They've had a revolving door, but for him to make that, was a 53-yarder? Yeah, 53-yarder to end the game. Whew, that was crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's something you mentioned the refs. That's something that I know with the Saints specifically, it's becoming like a trending thing that they have to average one call a game that is questionable, a no call. And even I've been seeing people on social media, specifically Twitter, like, all right, how many weeks are we going to have the Saints, upset and whine? They're still complaining last year about the playoffs. Here they are back again with week 2. They've complained every week. But it's honestly, we have seen some questionable calls, like what? Yes. There have been some rule changes that change the game. And that's something that we're seeing now as we get into the season, how much these rule changes really do impact the game when you could go back and review calls or different things like that. So I hope they figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like the people don't pay all that money to see the refs.
No, it's not their game. It's not their show.
Right.
Just keep the game consistent. That's it. Don't change the game too much. But I do want to say, with all that we have seen so far, are there any players specifically? I know Lamar Jackson's a definite one. We already talked about him. Any other players you've seen around the league that are surprising you in how they're playing? They're playing, maybe a little bit better than you anticipated coming into the season.
Me personally, I think that the defense of the Green Bay Packers, because historically they've had some terrible defense. They may have had some good players here and there, but for the majority of the time that Aaron Rodgers has been there, they haven't really had a good defense. They've had mediocre to okay defenses, but right now they're number 2 in defense in the NFL. And the crazy thing is, like, the Green Bay offense isn't really playing. They're not really clicking yet. So once they start clicking, that's a team that you should watch out for. Another person who is not really surprising me, because I've even said on my show that I feel this guy's going to throw for over 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, a lot of people really, they say he's a game manager and things of that nature, but if you look at the last 2 games, yes, I know it was against the Giants and the Redskins, but those are division games, and those are like rivalry games, and a lot of times, like, you don't like the score. I mean, not the score, but the record means absolutely nothing. The Cowboys could be bad, and the Redskins could be good, and the Cowboys would beat them, or vice versa. The Redskins would be bad, which they are, and you'll see. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next time, the last game of the season, that the Redskins beat the Cowboys. Maybe the Cowboys may be 7 guys, but for the most part, Dak has been pretty consistent, and I think this year he's on pace. He's on pace for 5,000 yards passing. So I think that Jerry Jones, the longer he waits to pay this guy, the more he's going to have to pay. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Go on and draft up that contract now, because the price looks like it is definitely going up. He's earning his money.
Yeah.
He's earning his money.
He definitely is.
Dak definitely, and he's someone that always has really been impressive ever since he really got his chance to be the number 1 quarterback for the Cowboys. And I hate to even say it, I don't like talking highly about the Cowboys, but I do respect him as a quarterback enough to appreciate his greatness and respect him. But no, Will Dissly's another one for the Seahawks, the tight end. He's had a pair of touchdowns this past weekend. But
absolutely.
He seems like someone that in a Seattle team, they're not really a team that everyone's keeping an eye on, but he's someone that really has been consistent these first couple weeks. But then on the flip side, are there any players that you feel like are surprising you because they are just underperforming and they're not playing as well? I've got a couple that immediately come to mind, but I can go with yours first. That hasn't played well. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I mean, he had a mediocre game yesterday. I mean, they're 2-0. They're 2-0, but week 1 when they played the Bears, they won. I think it was 10-6 or 10-7 or something like that. It was a really boring game. Yeah, and then yesterday they played the Vikings,
I mean, and they won, but it wasn't nothing to write home about. And I think he'll turn it around. The other is Baker Mayfield, but I think it's only been one game they played.
Yeah.
They played Monday night against the Jets. So I mean, I don't know who.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see who's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth noting that we are having this conversation Monday before the Jets and Browns play Monday night.
Right.
So we don't know exactly how that game's going to turn out. But I will say in week one, watching the Browns versus the Titans, which a lot of people expected them to win, their season opener, and they didn't. I do think that what we're seeing is that offense still needs time. OBJ coming into the mix, tremendous receiver, obviously one of the best, but they're still going to need some time, and I don't think they're going to be, as we saw in week one, they're not as invincible as everybody predicted them to be. This is a team that still is now, they're higher in where they should finish in the league, but I don't know if they're still there yet to be, a Super Bowl team or what everybody predicted them to just kind of run through the league as the new team on the block, which isn't going to happen just yet. But
I have them winning division, though.
Well, that I could see. That I could definitely see. But we'll, it's so early to tell. We have to kind of see who else is gonna, if anybody else is gonna get injured. If you talk about the Packers defense, like what defensive line's gonna really stand out as the top in the league, and that might make a difference too. But I will say Big Ben with the Steelers, who as of Monday they're still trying to see if he's gonna need surgery on his elbow.
Oh no, he's out for the year.
Oh, he is. I missed that.
Yes, Big Ben is out for the year.
Surgery.
Yep,
wow.
It's like probably about, I want to say like 30 minutes ago, Big Ben is out for the season.
I was eating lunch and missed it. I do see he's now getting surgery. There you go. Well, you know what? I was about to say he's had a disastrous start, but it just got worse because he's not even playing. And but the Steelers were just painful to watch beyond just the actual result itself. And then Cam Newton.
Oh God.
Come on, Cam. Yeah. Stop dressing ridiculously. Yeah. Get your game together and help your team get a win. Because, I mean, if you look at his passing yards, the interception he threw, it's just I don't know what's going on. I even saw them doing their little pregame. I don't know if this is real, if this is consistent, but their little pregame handshake he does with everybody, which is like a pelvic thrust that he does with each player or whatever. It's too much. You're doing all the wrong things. Like, why is it that every time we see him, he's either playing bad or doing, acting a fool? Just he's one of the best quarterbacks. Yeah. I love watching him play, but he's got to get it together.
I definitely agree with that. I would, it's crazy because I would put Cam Newton over Big Ben as far as this, but Big Ben has been playing terribly also. And I have some feelings about that as well. But Cam, man, so they're trying to say that he's not hurt, right? But there's just some things there's just some things that they're doing with the play calling where I'm saying maybe he is hurt when it's for instance, if you go back and look at the history of Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, it's 4th and 1 on the 2-yard line, and they were trying to run a trick play with Christian McCaffrey, who was one of the best backs in the league. But normally you're going over the top with Cam Newton, or you're going quarterback sneak with Cam Newton. And that's why I feel like there's something going on, whether it's his foot, his shoulder. But he hasn't been accurate. Last year before he got hurt, he was really, really accurate. You can tell he was turning the corner with his accuracy. And now it's just terrible. He can't. It's terrible right now. So I'm with you on that one. Cam Newton is disappointing, and I think I don't think I picked him in fantasy, but I know the people that did pick him in fantasy are looking at themselves like, man, what is going on here?
Yeah, I don't do fantasy football, but if he's on your roster, find a way to move him because he hasn't thrown for a touchdown yet. He's been sacked 6 times. His passing, his completions are. This is not the Cam Newton that we know. So that you make a good point. It makes me wonder. 4th and 1, it was always a quarterback sneak. Done. You knew that was coming, but you couldn't stop it. But now,
and most people move out the way.
Yeah, like, go on, get it. We know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. But we'll see. Maybe there is more to what was being told, and something is bothering him,
right.
or maybe there's something behind the scenes. I don't know, with him and the offensive line coach. I have no idea. Something is going on. Who knows though? But
you're right.
I do have to ask you: have your predictions at all? I know it's only week 2. There's a lot more football to be played. Have your predictions changed in any way for who you think is going to be the top in their division in a few months once we get to the end of the regular season?
Maybe with the NFC North, that one is always kind of scary. And now with Drew Brees being hurt, I think the division is there for the taking for Atlanta. And I think the Panthers. I think that everybody in that division still has a shot except for Tampa Bay. Even though Tampa Bay beat Carolina, but I think Carolina will win the next time. And I think that honestly, that division right now, because Drew Brees got hurt, is Atlanta's for the taking. I picked New Orleans, like a lot of people picked New Orleans. Can they win that division? I don't know. I mean, I think those 7 weeks, because Drew Brees will come back, and he still has to get time to get back into like game shape. Aside from that, I think that the 49ers have been surprising, and I think their schedule played to their favor because they played Tampa Bay week 1 and Cincinnati week 2. They look surprisingly good. It's not like they look like lethargic playing those teams. They've blown those teams out. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting because I think now they've scored more points than Seattle. So, I mean, you still have LA, the Rams out there, but I think the Rams are going to take a step back. I think that I picked them to win the division. No, I'm sorry. I picked Seattle to win the division, but as crazy as it sounds, watch out for the 49ers.
Wow, that does sound crazy. I feel like it's a joke, but no, I will say for the NFC South, I agree with you. Once Drew Brees went down, even though he will be back in 6 weeks, as mentioned, he still has to get back into playing. That 6 weeks, that it flies by, but there's a lot that can change in that amount of time. And I honestly picked them to be a favorite coming out of the NFC, of course with the Eagles, but I picked them to be a favorite coming out of the NFC because of the way that the NFC Championship went last year. Like, I thought they'd come back as a team that's now, a lot of the same pieces are back. You've got Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks, and they have the potential to let the frustration of that infamous call or no call, I should say, carry them to be a top team. But injuries, man. So we'll see what happens with that. And I do not believe we have to say watch out for the 49ers. But yes, I mean, Sean McVay and the Rams, it's them, it's the 49ers. They're 2-0, but their first 2 games are pretty loud and clear that this is a different 49ers team. They beat the Chiefs in the preseason. Like they've been doing some pretty big things on the low that people might have been overlooking, but especially since they beat the Bengals, who people definitely write off. I mean, Cincinnati's not always a strong team, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. A lot of football left to be played, and I thank you for joining us on the show to talk about it. Where can people follow along with you and your show, Off the Record?
They can follow me personally on Instagram and Twitter. It's Vipers31. And Anthony Adebayo on Facebook. The show is the Off the Record Show on Instagram, the OTR Show on Twitter. They also can listen on the Apple Podcast. Just search Off the Record and put Off the Record Bliss, BLIS. The same with Spotify, and the website is Bliss, BLIS.FM/Off the Record.
What are you, the Ohio State, the Off the Record?
I hate Ohio State too, by the way. I'm a Michigan fan.
Oh, wow. But that's the first thing I thought of when you said it is the Off the. But okay, you follow the Off the Record.
You know why? You know that happens because like in our intro, and the email address is the Off the Record Show, and I don't know. It's like the Off the Record show at, I don't know. I don't know why it happened like that.
Oh, good. You don't have to explain. You're like the Ohio State. I get it. You don't.
Oh,
like
man.
Low key got your show following the same.
They tried to trademark the. I mean, they tried to trademark it. Yeah, they got denied though.
That is too funny. All right, well, thank you so much, Anthony Adebayo, host of the Off the Record. Also known as Off the Record. Thank you for joining me on the show this week.
All right, thanks for having me.